Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stoked. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
That's the J-Bone right there.
J-Rock.
Okay.
We covered this.
Now,
don't get it wrong.
Okay, you know what? You're right. We did actually just cover this, so I apologize.
You better.
We have got a crap ton of stuff that developed this week that we want to talk about. We have engineering reports. We have state of game. We have got new artwork, new ships, all kinds of stuff.
And a new episode to look over as well, the new weekly.
So I thought maybe we'd start with some of the rumors and our thoughts on the new weekly before we got into all of the news developments.
Absolutely.
Okay,
that sounds
cool.
like a good plan.
So let's start with the rumor, dude.
This is the first one. Now, this hasn't been confirmed. I guess some of you heard this and you threw it our way, but unfortunately, if we haven't heard it firsthand, I still have to call it a rumor.
Yeah, okay.
But apparently, Stahl was quoted on Subspace Radio as saying that the Nebula, the new ship that we talked about a couple episodes back,
the one that I said looks like it has a slab of cheese on top of it.
Right. The Nebula is apparently facing indefinite delays at this point. And
that's too bad.
He didn't say why, but I have to figured that this is probably due to CBS approval.
It does kind of smell of that. You know, you lay down the stuff, you get the design close to the look. You know what I wonder is maybe CBS monitors the feedback, because there was some negative feedback, including from the show.
Yeah. Should we apologize?
Well, no, I mean,
for being honest.
I said in that episode, I said it's not Cryptic's design. I've never liked the Nebula.
That's true.
And you look at the Nebula. I think my most famous memory of the Nebula is at the end of Generations when it beams up the crew after it crashes.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people who are looking forward to that ship.
I think so too, and it is a canon design. There are not as many of those as some people would prefer.
We are lacking a lot of canon ships. I would still like to see more canon ships added.
Mm-hmm. So now, I think one of the other things that might be holding it up is actually they have some variants that they've shown pictures of that are like, slightly sleeker design that might be offered in addition to the Nebula. Maybe those are hanging up the design. We don't really know.
All right, let's move on to Cold Case. That was the weekly episode that came out on Saturday the 18th.
Actually, today, the day that we're filming this, we just finished it a couple hours ago.
Sir, yes, sir. So this is the fourth one we've had, right? This makes number 4?
Yeah.
And one more in the whole arc that we've been in.
I believe that's correct. I think the next one we're getting to is the final episode in this arc.
And this one was essentially a cliffhanger to set up that next episode.
It was.
Really.
I remember. You remember as soon as we finished it, I was like, "Oh, I wanted to go do the next one."
It felt like a big chase scene.
It did, which is very reminiscent of the original, the Next Generation episode that involved the Preservers, the ancient humanoids,
like a race, like a great race. Not so much like maybe a chase is the wrong word. Maybe I should, like a race to the finish with a completely capable competitor. But it was, I thought, a pretty good paced mission.
At the same time, though, I didn't really enjoy having to travel that much.
You mentioned the travel.
No, I think it might have been better if we're neither of us are Vice Admiral. We're within a couple levels of it. And when you get that, you get transport.
Yeah.
Or Slipstream, sorry.
Right. Transport by having the Excelsior.
I think with the Slipstream, I wouldn't really have noticed it. So maybe it was balanced with that in mind. But again, these missions are available for everybody.
Well, for me, I think if I had to travel one more time to one more system, I probably would have started to get, all right, this is a little obnoxious. And it was kind of cool how one time you traveled and it was an artifact that, well, maybe I shouldn't say where it was hidden.
Right.
But it was hidden in a new location. A non-combat location that was somewhere, I don't think anything's ever been hidden in this game before. And it was kind of, when you uncovered it, it had this cool display that it, I thought was a neat.
A lot of original effects. Just like last week we mentioned that the whole cave tile set looked to be entirely custom crafted for that episode. Right. There was still new art assets for this one as well. Now, one of the very first things that you encounter in this episode is a puzzle. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I know we have different opinions on it.
Yeah.
And I found it extremely frustrating. Now, I want to say that this is the first thing I basically did after rolling out of bed, so I might have had a little bit of wrong side of the bed morning crankiness going on here.
That's too bad. For me, I thought it mostly the challenge came from actually managing the interface itself.
Right. Now, this was technically a mini-game. We've seen other mini-games in game, but usually they're done via a pop-up, where the entire thing is in basically what you might call a controlled environment.
Like the waveform
right, or Dabo.
Manipulator. Yeah.
They're all controlled environments. This one was actually using the existing ground combat movement mechanics.
And sometimes it was a little hard to place the BOF on the right spot, and, the access FFF interface isn't the most ideal interface to that.
No.
Though I liked the idea behind having to solve a puzzle to unlock the next phase of the mission.
I also did like the fact that the way that it was set up also encouraged you to solve it as a group with your friends. You can do it solo, But if you have people along with you, it encourages you to work together. Whereas with a pop-up interface, it might be each individual person doing it on their own.
Right.
Not very social.
And I guess I would say at the end of the event, I liked having to do something that seemed a little bit of a change of pace.
Yeah.
So
I'll give it that. I still found it frustrating. I think that it could have been streamlined a bit, but I like what they were going for.
Streamlined, I think, is the right way to put it. The interface to it could have been a little more streamlined.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's hard to do in something you have to put out on a weekly basis.
I'm going to come out right out and say it, though. The combination of the slightly frustrating puzzle and what I consider to be excessive travel, I wasn't as impressed with this episode overall.
I noticed a few people were saying a lot of travel in the chat room and stuff like that. I felt like the travel was appropriate, but I could definitely start to get old. It could have gotten old because there was also a fair amount of travel in one of the maps.
Right.
At the same time, it was kind of cool to fly over the planet, scan the moon. That was kind of a neat aspect of it. And it was a gorgeous map.
Regardless of whether or not this particular mission blew my skirt up, I'm really looking forward to the next one still because of the way that it was put together. I think the stories of these are great.
You made comment too, though, that map where we had to travel a lot was especially gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
their environment artists are top notch, I believe.
I think not my favorite of all of them, but I think I'll walk away enjoying a bit more, but definitely it's going to be a great launching platform.
When I go back through these with an alt and maybe play them all back to back, I don't think that I'll even notice that this one sticks out. But the fact that I have to wait until the next episode and it was such a cliffhanger and this is all I get for the entire week, all those things together have left me with a slightly lesser impression of this week's weekly content.
I wouldn't be surprised if when we're done with the show, that's the main reaction in the forum too.
All right, well, what do you say we move on to some of the...
Daniel Stahl says stuff updates.
This was in his State of the Game report that came out.
A lot of great information in these. Originally when they started coming out with these, I kind of poo-pooed on them a little bit. I didn't really like the openness. I guess I wasn't used to it as an MMOer, about seeing the developers come out and just talk to you like a human being.
Right.
But as time has gone by, I really like these. And Dan... Yeah, we're on a first-name basis now.
David, you mean?
Yeah, David.
D. Stahl. No, Daniel. Mr. Stahl.
He's had a lot of great things to say in this that I think need to be heard by a larger population. Not everybody checks the forums. Okay. A lot of people will read this. In particular, they did mention that they are seeing an increase in lifetime subscribers.
Yeah. He used a term, though, too. He says they're still seeing a lot of player churn.
Like turnover, basically.
But maybe the new ones coming in are going lifetime. See, the two things there are kind of conflicted, but I'm sure I just missed the point.
Another thing that he mentions in here is that more than half of their player base has played these new featured episodes.
Yeah.
That's a huge percentage when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, other games like World of Warcraft, for example, they say that some of their raid zones only get seen by like 5% of their total population.
No kidding.
I thought I'd like to point out that they're still toeing the line of saying that they're reevaluating their C-Store attitude. That they're trying to get more and more items, that anything you can purchase in the C-Store will have an alternative method of being obtained in the game.
I am on the side of the camp that says if something in the C-Store makes me a more competitive player, like a ship that has an extra slot or something like that.
Yeah,
that should be obtainable in game.
Abso-frickin-lutely. Anything that gives you an edge, I think shouldn't be in the C-Store at all.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that's come up a lot in the State of the Game is that he spent a lot of time talking about the Klingon side of content.
Yeah.
The KDF side of things, and it basically comes flat out and says that the Klingon faction is experiencing a bit of a identity crisis.
Yeah, I thought it was funny he called it that because it's almost exactly what it is.
Based on his statements in this, it sounds like they're trying to come up with a way to create a unique experience for the Klingons that's not just like an adapted version of PvE from the Fed side, but that also gives them a fun, robust option for playing through the game.
You could tell that they couldn't decide if they wanted to make them PvP only or how to treat them.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't believe that they still resolve that.
I don't think so either. I think it sounds like they're still going through the talks.
Yeah. But
even if they don't know what they're doing, at least they've acknowledged that they don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah.
Now, the one last thing in this engineering report or the State of the Game that I wanted to mention is the new targeting that we mentioned a couple episodes back has a bit of an explanation. Let me just read his quote here.
All right, lay it on me, sir.
It says, "We have a new ground combat mode in testing that allows you to switch to a target reticle and shoot your weapons where you are aiming instead of needing to click your target." We mentioned actually just last show about a first-person shooter mode hack.
Now, that is a little different.
It's a little different, but this is ultimately very similar because the rest of ground mechanics is going to remain as is. It's not going to change the way you play, just the way you target. And, I'm going to actually reserve the rest of my judgment until I get a chance to play with it.
It seems like a good temporary fix for moving in the right direction, but I don't think that's the problem with ground combat. Though that said, with the dailies, when they vary it up with the groups, you just change up those groups from time to time. So I just have to vary my tactics so I can do it without making a sandwich.
Yeah.
And you've got me on ground combat a big part of the way, so maybe you keep doing that. We'll see. I know a lot of people still do not love ground combat, but I'd be curious if the same people out there who traditionally have not enjoyed ground combat, how are you feeling about the ground combat in the new weekly episodes? Leave us feedback or anywhere you want to do that, the comments or anything, and let us know. I'm curious to know if you feel the same way.
I'm actually curious about that as well.
All right, well, let's move on now to the engineering report.
I'll be honest, not a lot of new stuff in the engineering report. Mostly stuff that has been moved from conceptual to in testing.
Right.
Or from in testing or from in development up to in testing.
So did you see this note in here that implies that they had a few things that were underway that kind of got put on hold by CBS?
Now, this kind of feeds to what I was talking about the nebula, I feel. Again, I'll just read the quote.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
It says, our recent meetings with CBS also turned up some interesting discussions, and several of the features we had hoped to deliver are being rescoped and reevaluated due to some concerns. This primarily impacts the Enterprise J, hooray, and the Kzinti.
No kidding.
Boo. I actually wanted to see the Kzinti.
Yeah, but the Enterprise J.
Now, this does raise some concerns. It seems to indicate that CBS might be having a more fingers in the pot, as it were, because we kind of got the impression they were hands-off for a long time. The
flip side is, as long as it's appropriate and it's not interferent too much, I like the idea of someone being the keeper of the canon.
Yeah.
Now, this line in here about one of the questions I've been seeing recently in the discussions is, how do these season releases impact the featured episodes? And it sounds like this is kind of what we'd kind of inferred on the show earlier, that seasons, think of it almost as big patches, big content patches, big fixes, big additions, new things like that, big broad stroke features, as he calls it, like user-generated content, sector space, stuff like that. And then you're going to see a lot of the gameplay content through the weeklies, probably going forward as long as this keeps working out.
That was also brought up in the State of the Game as well, actually, in that they realized that the player's impression of rolling out new content only with the big patches
that was interesting,
made it feel like there was less new content being added than there actually was. So by switching it to a weekly rollout, they're not really changing the amount of content they're putting out, but it feels like more because it's on a more regular basis.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I starting about Wednesday, I started jonesing for my Saturday episode fix.
Yeah.
So I thought it worked. Anything else you want to call out from the engineering report?
The rest is all pictures.
Yeah.
I would love to show these pictures because we have new Klingon ships and new uniforms.
Yeah, let's start with these uniforms because, as you described to me the other night, they are the hotness.
They are the hot.
They are the hot, and the first one's up that I want to look at. I want to put my eyeballs all over these original motion picture series uniforms. They look so awesome.
All of these new uniforms are just incredible. I got to hand it to them for, down to the wrinkles. Yeah. Really.
Yep.
And but this one in particular makes me smile every time I see it.
Yep,
it's so simple and classic, but
exactly, it's probably the one I'm going to end up going with. But then you've also got a 7 of 9 episode character type uniform,
bodysuit thing,
bodysuit, the 7 of 9 suit, a little body.
I'm not
type.
so excited about the suit itself, but if you look closely at her hand, I want to put that on my Borg so bad. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. That's that hand Borg thing that you can't put now.
I kept hoping that they were going to do that some point.
Totally. Now we've got a T'Pol uniform.
I'll probably put my Borg in that.
You think so?
Yeah.
Now, I think this has never been one of my favorite uniforms, but I think they got it pretty good.
It's not really a uniform at all, really.
It's just more like a skin covering.
I was kind of wondered why she was just wearing her casual clothes on the bridge.
Right?
It's like
her
Deanna.
jammies.
Put your uniform on, woman.
Now you have some Enterprise uniforms here that look fantastic.
Now, you probably already know that I have a tactical alt that I've got my entire crew outfitted in what I could come up with as
the closest to it. Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this rolling out. I'm going to outfit all of them in that.
Are you?
Yep. My entire crew. It's going to be great.
Yeah, they look slick.
I love it. It even got the patch on the shoulder and everything.
Yep.
It's great.
I wonder if you can. I wonder how much customization you can do to that patch there.
I wonder.
Yeah. All right. We also got a little sneak peek here at some new Gorn. Now, these aren't going to... we don't actually have a release date on any of this stuff, do we?
No, I don't think so, but it's in development and in testing, so soon, we hope. But
what do you think of these guys?
I dig it.
Yeah.
I think this is a much better hybrid between the original Gorn that you saw in the original series and the sort of raptor-looking Gorn you got in the Enterprise.
In Enterprise, yeah.
Yeah. I know that that's originally what they were going for with the Gorn that we currently have in game, but I think this is a much better compromise. A little more bestial, a little more feral looking.
Dinosaur, almost, really.
Yeah, talking dinosaurs.
Yeah. I really, really, really want to play one of these.
Now, they're saying that this will be an additional customization option, so the original Gorn that are already in the game will stay.
Oh, good.
And these will be added to the pile.
Good.
Yeah.
The pile. These are going to be added to the character option pile.
Right. That's all we got for costumes, but you know what? The ships are just as hot.
Oh, man, I love the new ships.
Finally, we have gotten some official shots of the new ships they're adding, of the Nausicaans, Orions, and a couple others. Just great. I love the Nausicaan ships.
They look mean.
I know this isn't a very Trek design, and I fully admit that I'm not the biggest fan of Trek classic designs, but I love this. I know.
I love Trek design, but I've always felt like as long as the Federation stuff stuck to the Star Trek designs, you could always go off on a tangent with the aliens.
I agree.
Weren't part of the Federation.
I agree. It's so vertical and evil and menacing looking. I'm going to totally be flying the hell out of that ship.
Yep. Now we've got some Gorn ships.
Yep.
And the Gorn ships look
Actually,
like...
I think that might be Orion.
Oh, okay. Oh, then this Orion ship looks like a Gorn ship to me. Because this pretty much to me... actually... I do like this. I was going to say, this looks kind of like what we've seen before, but I didn't notice it. This is kind of like there's like a circular bulge in the back.
Yeah.
If that spins or something like that, that could be really cool.
Ooh, that would be cool.
All right, I might take back. I'll reserve judgment on that. But that thing looks like a big tanker beast.
Yeah. There's another view of it from a different angle.
Is that the same ship?
I believe so. It's hard to tell. I mean,
be...
those Orion ships, they're all kind of bumpy and dark. I'm not really sure which side's the front sometimes.
Yeah.
But who cares? I'm going to be flying the Nausicaan ship anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so, too.
Now, what's that other one? Oh, yeah, the new Vorcha variant that's coming as well. Fans of the classic Klingon design will probably get a kick out of this.
I think it looks fantastic.
I think once more... we need to give a great big thumbs up to Captain Logan. I believe these are all his designs. He's the one that posted them. So
Jeremy, everyone's on a team.
Yeah. And this team consists of Captain Logan.
No. Now, before we move on, did you want to give a shout out to the
I do. Last week episode, we featured a lot of stuff from the site STOadvanced.com, which is where we got all of those cool UI mods and hacks. And some of the footage that we used was shown to be I thought it was from the Stow Advanced site itself, that they had shot these themselves. Our bad. Apparently, it came from another podcast, and I just wanted to give them full credit for actually coming up with that footage. It was from the Red Shirt Army podcast.
There you go.
So thanks for putting those together. They were actually a real help for our show. Dabo! Okay, so several episodes ago, I told you all that there was simply not enough going on for me to offer a complete math segment on the subject of Dabo. Well, I was wrong. Now, that's not to say that there's necessarily a bunch of number crunching going on or any way that you can cheat the system. But thanks entirely to one very dedicated fan of Dabo, I do have some details and mechanics that I can share with you. And while it might not necessarily make you a better player, it can at least give you an idea of what to expect while spinning the wheel. The first thing you need to know is how to read the wheels within wheels upon the Dabo board. Imagine that the symbols on the Dabo wheel are something akin to a deck of cards, which is to say that each symbol is a combination of a suit and a number. Dabo is slightly more simple than a deck of cards, however, in that there are only 3 suits and 3 colors. But then they throw a curveball at you and also add an additional variable of 3 shapes. This means that there are a total of 27 different combinations, each of which are represented only once on each of the outer wheels. The innermost ring on the wheel is colorless, which works as a wild card where color is concerned. Now, in addition to these 27 symbols, there are also a number of miscellaneous symbols that alter the payouts of any line they end up on. The first is called the swirl, which is pretty much a joker. It counts for any number, any color, any shape. 2 or more of the quark symbol, which kind of looks like a golden scarab beetle, will result in a high payout. Now, the DS9 looking icons work similarly to quarks, but they give a lesser payout. And the last miscellaneous symbol is called the black hole. The black hole matches nothing on the board and will offer no payouts. Now, as I said, knowing how to read the board won't necessarily give you any sort of an edge in this game, but at least now when you're reading along, you'll know when to shout, Dabo! Always bet on 3 lines. Your odds of winning increase. And speaking of odds, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's actually not a secret because it's been on the internet and that's supposed to be public, right? Okay, well, it's not a secret then. I also want to give full credit to the forum user that came up with all of this information that I'm graciously shoving down your throats. So, thanks to you, Rachel Garrett. But anyway, odds. I'm not going to dig into the odds you have of landing each individual combination. Instead, I'm going to share with you the math of playing Dabo as a generality. You see, there are so many different ways to win and so many different payout possibilities that it's actually completely possible to calculate an average payout for playing. No, I don't really know how. Someone out there much smarter than me figured it out, and I'm going to trust their evidence. So here it is. The longer you play, the closer you get to a basic exchange rate where for every 100 energy credits you spend playing Dabo, you'll win, on average, 88 gold press latinum. Now, obviously, if you hit a triple swirl on your very first spin, you're doing a lot better than somebody that's been playing for hours hitting nothing but doubles and color matches. But either extreme is a rare circumstance. We're talking averages here. Now, knowing this base exchange rate allows you to easily calculate the actual energy credit value for all that junk that Woody's selling over at the bar, the stuff that you trade gold press latinum for. Simply multiply the cost by 1.14, and you've got your value. Easy, right? This also means that it's relatively easy to calculate an estimate of how much energy credits it will cost to get the top Dabo-related accolade, which is winning 1 million gold press latinum. By multiplying that by 1.14, you can estimate that you'll need about 1,140,000 energy credits in order to achieve all of the available accolades. Along the road to 1 million gold press latinum, it is extremely likely that you will pick up all of the other related accolades. So in summary, I want to restate that Dabo is not a game of skill by any stretch of the imagination. It's entirely based on chance and luck. And I'll include a link in the little doobly-doo for you guys to figure out the exact odds of the different combinations and the payouts if you hit them. But, you know, none of that really matters if you just trust this simple advice. Always bet on 3 lines, and eventually you'll get what you want, as long as you have enough credits to spend. But remember, the house always wins, even if it's only just a little bit off the top. So until next time, everybody, you got Daboed! Math. Back to
just too many. I feel like I'm just slaughtering people. More hours. Very common. Go with the Houston Jets at a certain point. Right. Among they would be yeah, I think that's important.
J-Man, epic math segment.
It's J-Rock. How many times do I have to tell you?
Sorry, J-Bone. So this episode is going to be wrapped up right about here. We do have community feedback coming up, though, next week. We've gotten about, I think, around 100 or so.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, 100 or so emails regarding your ideas of how...
We'd give you a few more days to send these in.
Basically.
And
the idea was, how do you incentivize, how do you get the peeps out there to get into a fleet?
Absolutely. Or to create a fleet
and,
or anything like that.
We've gotten, some of the ones we have gotten, I'm already digging. Like Trekker 1988 in the chat room had mentioned that his idea, he teased it for us already, we actually haven't read it yet, but his idea sounds like it's a fleet-based transwarp system.
Yeah, I'm curious how exactly he's fleshing that out. So we will probably take a look at that next week.
Yep, so you can tune in next week over at JupiterBroadcasting.com, and the Stoke comes out every Tuesday, so...
And if you still need to get your information, your idea sent our way, send that over to STOked at JupiterBroadcasting.com.
Absolutely. Okay, everyone, well, you know what? We did shoot this episode of Stoked live, and when we do that, you can find out in a couple of places. I'll tell you about the calendar. It's JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar.
That's great. That's actually the core, because we don't always update the Facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. How can we keep failing at this? And then we keep bringing it up.
You know what? You know why? It's because Stoked Live is kind of like a new thing, and we've been doing it more and more. And so it's not really like we don't have a routine down yet. Like when we sit down and do last, we got a system,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
You bang it out, you tell everybody. Yeah, but you can also check us on Twitter because that is much more likely to be updated. I'm twitter.com/JBJeremy.
Yeah, and I'm Chris LAS. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this week's episode of Stoked, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Touch my nose that I'm scratching right now because it itches.
Now, we do have the community set.
You're going to be doing a lot better off than somebody's hitting nothing but. I am ready. I am prepared.
No? Okay.
Nope. You're going to. God damn it. Face. Work with me here.